I want to take you on a trip down memory lane. It's 2014 and it's a dark, cold, rainy day. Your favorite Let's Player posted a new video of a game you've never heard of, Five Nights at Freddy's. You load up the video and immediately you are hooked. You've seen enough to be convinced that you need to get this game and try it out for yourself. Lights off, headphones on, and you're crammed into a tiny, dimly lit security office that feels off. The only thing between you and your demise is two metal doors, lights, security cameras, and a rapidly draining power supply. You flip through the grainy security cameras, heart hammering in your chest when suddenly the music stops. Footsteps echo down the hallway. You slam the left door shut just in time as Bonnie's lifeless eyes fill the screen. There's an overwhelming presence of suffocating dread, and that is the magic of the original Five Nights at Freddy's. An unassuming indie horror game dropped by a developer most people had never heard of, and it somehow managed to terrify and captivate an entire generation. It spawned a massive franchise, launched 1,000 theories, and changed how we think about horror games forever. But here's the thing that I've come to believe after playing every mainline entry and watching this series evolve. For all the spectacle, lore books, Hollywood movies, and big budget attempts that followed, nothing has ever quite captured the magic, the concentrated fear that the very first game produced. Today, in this video, we're diving deep into why the original FNAF remains the best game in the entire series. We'll explore its minimalism, the unmatched atmosphere, tension of its gameplay, and how Scott Cawthon captured lightning in a bottle on his very first swing at true horror. Oftentimes, we find that sequels lose the very thing that made the original so special, and as with so many other games I've played, FNAF fits this description well. Before we get into it, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And with that, let's take a look under the exoskeleton of Five Nights at Freddy's. Right from the beginning, FNAF understands something that many later entries seem to forget. Sometimes less is overwhelmingly more. You just took a night job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a once beloved family restaurant now desolate and abandoned. Your role is to sit in a small office from midnight to 6 a.m. and make sure nothing goes awry. That's the entire pitch. No frills, no gimmicks, it's really just you, a handful of security cameras, 2 hallway doors, and a finite amount of power. What makes this setup work so well is how bare bones it is, especially when it comes to the lore that's presented within the first game. The game doesn't try to justify why the animatronics are moving. Sure, it gives some hints as to possible backstory, but it doesn't present it outright. Phone Guy gives you the bare minimum with this.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, but do I blame them? No. If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too. So remember, these characters hold a special place in the hearts of children and we need to show them a little respect, right? Okay.
This well-implemented minimalism is the foundation everything else is built on. Because the premise is so simple, your imagination and later on the community had to fill in the gaps. It also forces you to be attentive to the little details. Every missing animatronic on the monitor becomes a threat. Every creak and distant noise makes you feel more on edge. The original FNAF doesn't need to explain the horror. The atmosphere does most of the explaining. And honestly, that's why it hit so hard from 2014 to today, and why even after all these years and all the complicated storytelling that followed, this straightforward setup remains the purest and most effective in the entire franchise. Step into the office and you immediately feel it. That thick, oppressive trepidation. The original Five Nights at Freddy's doesn't capture you with blood, gore, or shock value. Instead, it creates an atmosphere so captivating, you can't shake the lingering. The restaurant itself feels wrong. Dim, flickering lights cast long shadows across faded party posters. The stage sits empty, animatronics staring out with those glossy, unblinking eyes. Grainy, static-filled security cameras turn every corner into something unknowable. This is a place where happy childhood memories go to die. What elevates the game from great to near perfect is the sound design. There's a constant low hum from the office fan, random metallic clangs, footsteps, and distant children's laughter echoing throughout the hallways at irregular intervals. Don't even get me started on hearing Freddy's music playing down the hallways. You'll hear footsteps shuffling closer, only to realize they've stopped right outside your door. The way the game withholds information is masterful. An animatronic vanishes from the monitor, and suddenly the only clue it's coming for you is the subtle change in the ambient audio. It does this without dramatic music swells or voice lines telling you what's happening, simply through pure feelings of isolation broken by the occasional eerie melody from Freddy's music box or that haunting, distorted jingle when the power finally runs out. Later games in the series often traded this masterful restraint for spectacle. More animatronics, vent crawling mechanics, brighter visuals, and constant audio cues. While those entries can be exciting, they rarely recapture the raw, claustrophobic tension of sitting alone in that tiny office, power ticking down, wondering which hallway is about to betray you. FNAF 1 understands that true horror lies in the spaces between the scares, in the uncertainty, the silence, and the uncanny feeling that these once innocent machines are watching you. That atmosphere has not been matched since. The defining aspect of all Five Nights at Freddy's entries is the tension it builds and the jump scares. In the original, your entire world is reduced to 3 core actions: checking cameras, turning on lights, and closing doors. Every single decision drains your limited power supply. Run out of power and the lights go dark. The doors swing open and Freddy's haunting lullaby begins to play. It's a brutally elegant survival system that turns resource management into psychological warfare. What makes the scares land so well is the masterful build-up. The game rarely throws cheap jump scares at you. Instead, it lets the fear build slowly as you progress through the nights. You see Bonnie's empty stage on cam 1A, then suddenly he's in the dining area, then the supply closet, and then he vanishes completely. A few seconds later, you hear the heavy footsteps in the left hallway. You flip on the light, and there he is, inches away, staring straight into your soul. Or you ignore Foxy for too long, and all of a sudden hear that crackhead speed metallic sprint down the west hall, forcing you into a desperate race to close the door in time. And of course, the ultimate payoff. Sitting in total darkness as Freddy's music grows louder, knowing there is nothing left you can do. These moments hit harder because the tension is earned. Later games in the series often mistook more complicated for more scary. FNAF 2 overwhelms you with multiple threats and vent monitors, Sister Location shifts into puzzle platforming territory, Security Breach opens the world up but loses that intimate, claustrophobic pressure. None of them quite replicate the desperate, heart-pounding focus of the original Office. That feeling of 3% power remaining, sweat on your palms, knowing one wrong camera check could end everything. The original Five Nights at Freddy's proved that the best horror gameplay is about making the player feel genuinely vulnerable, by all means. While the horror of the gameplay and atmosphere is what initially hooks you, what kept us coming back night after night is the subtle, haunting mystery woven into the world itself. The original FNAF doesn't dump its lore onto you through cutscenes or lengthy exposition, but instead, it reveals its darkness in fragments. Tiny, chilling details that feel like you're piecing together something you were never meant to discover. Phone Guy's cheerful yet increasingly nervous calls serve as your only real guide, dropping unsettling hints about the animatronic's behavior and the restaurant's troubled past. Then there are the hidden Easter eggs, the rare hallucination of Golden Freddy, the 4 posters revealing further lore surrounding the missing kids. None of it is explained outright. The game simply leaves some of the pieces lying around. It trusts you to feel the weight of the tragedy behind the cheerful mascot faces and to dig for more answers. This masterful ambiguity is exactly why the original stands above the rest of the series. Later games expanded the lore into an enormous, decade-spanning saga complete with books, multiple timelines, and increasingly complex twists. And while that's entertaining for dedicated fans, it's also moved away from the speculative story the first game created. In FNAF 1, the mystery feels personal and intimate. You're spending 5 nights inside the aftermath of something horrible. That sense of uncovering buried evil through phone calls, newspaper articles, and whatever other Easter eggs we felt fit the narrative has never been matched. The original let your imagination run wild with the horror, and in doing so, it created something far more unsettling than any fully explained story could achieve. Back in 2014 and 2015, in the early years, the community was going rampant with theories and rumors about the story behind the game. This is part of what made it so fun. You weren't creating a story yourself, but rather an entire community was coming together to make sense of the puzzle pieces. And while I don't hate the direction that the story has gone nowadays, I really do like to look back with fondness on the original magic of putting together the evidence that was just encapsulated in FNAF 1 alone. More than a game, the original Five Nights at Freddy's became a cultural phenomenon that reshaped horror gaming and YouTube culture in 2014. What started as a small indie project by Scott Cawthon exploded into a viral sensation almost overnight. Let's Play creators like Markiplier, PewDiePie, and Jacksepticeye uploaded their terrified reactions, while those videos racked up hundreds of thousands to millions of views in a matter of weeks. The game turned passive viewers into an active, obsessed community. People were experiencing secondhand fear together, theorizing in comment sections, and sharing their own failed night shifts. It helped cement the golden era of horror game reactions on YouTube and proved that a simple, atmospheric indie title could outperform many big-budget releases in sheer cultural reach. Beyond YouTube, FNAF fundamentally changed how developers approach horror games. It demonstrated that you didn't need high-end graphics, orchestral scores, or excessive violence to create unforgettable terror. Instead, Scott showed the power of minimalism, limited resources, clever sound design, clever use of static cameras, and heavy reliance on player imagination. Suddenly, a flood of indie horror games began embracing similar principles. Tension through restriction, dread through absence, and gameplay loops built around vulnerability rather than empowerment. The original proved that one person with a strong idea and smart constraints could terrify millions, inspiring everything from camera-based survival games to psychological horror titles that prioritize atmosphere over action. I would go as far as to say FNAF sparked the analog horror revolution, inspiring future media entries to emphasize the 80s, 90s aesthetic to tell their story, as well as nostalgia. The graphics in FNAF are truly nothing special. You can't even change the resolution in the menu. However, I feel that the atmosphere actually benefits from the vibe that Scott chose. Before this, there really isn't much in the way of analog horror that I can remember, although I was a kid when FNAF 1 was released, so forgive me if my assumption is incorrect. To be completely fair, the Five Nights at Freddy's series has delivered some genuinely impressive entries since the original. Each new game brought fresh ideas, bigger production values, and deeper lore that millions of fans have passionately explored. It's clear that Scott Cawthon and the team continue to experiment and evolve the franchise in both directions. And I want to be clear, I do genuinely like all of the entries in the FNAF catalog. This is not me talking shit on them. Despite those strengths, though, that they all have, none of them have managed to surpass the complete, self-contained package that the very first game delivered. Later entries traded the intimacy for the spectacle, ambiguity for explanation, and suffocating tension for complexity. What made FNAF 1 special was the perfect marriage of minimalism, atmosphere, tension, gameplay, lore, and imagination. So, after all these years, countless sequels, books, and even multiple major motion pictures, I still believe the original Five Nights at Freddy's remains the best. It captured that lightning in a bottle, the raw, claustrophobic, perfectly crafted horror experience that has not been equaled. If you've only played the later games, I strongly would encourage you to go back and experience the first one again, preferably at night with headphones on and the lights off. Feel that old familiar dread creep back in as the power drops and those footsteps draw closer. Because in the end, nothing has ever quite matched the simple terror of surviving 5 nights at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Whether you agree or disagree, I do want to hear from you. Which FNAF game do you think is the strongest and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Please drop a like on this video and please subscribe if you like this content. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to keep your frontal lobes away from the jaws of